Welcome to A Journey to Whole Woman Health, the podcast where science, mental health, and faith come together to educate, empower, and encourage women in every season of life. We are your hosts, Dr. Jamie Irwin, board-certified OBGYN,
and Dr. Mary Catherine Nader, licensed professional counselor with a PhD in counselor education and supervision. Jamie and I have been friends for over 30 years.
Each week, we explore the intersection of body, mind, and soul, bringing you evidence-based medicine, meaningful conversations about mental health, and stories that remind us we're not alone on the journey.
So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin the journey. Welcome back for part 2 of our conversation with Jen Harris. We had Courtney Huckabay last time, both authors of Reframe and Reclaim. If you joined us for part 1, then you already know this conversation is about so much more than organizing a closet or cleaning out a garage. We are talking about the reclaim process, morning depth. And
more in depth.
More in depth. And honestly, I think so many women are walking around exhausted, overstimulated, and burdened by environments that no longer feel peaceful or restorative. And I just want to add, we're doing this because we are interested in this book. We're not getting any pay or sponsorship from this. Jamie and I really saw this book and said, this is something for us. And we think a lot of women, this would be helpful for you.
I struggle.
We all do.
It's a struggle. Well, in part 1, we explored the psychology behind clutter, why a relationship with our belongings is often deeply emotional. I shared some personal stories about, my track and field nostalgia. But today we're going even deeper. We're really going to dig into the 7-step process. But it's obvious our environment really does affect our nervous system and why letting go can feel emotionally difficult. Perfectionism plays a role.
For sure.
Decision fatigue is so huge. And I can feel stuck. So Jen Harris is here, and we can't wait to get unstuck and help us reclaim our minds and our homes and our spaces.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Yes. We're so excited. So let's get started. Share us a little bit about yourself and what brought you into this.
Yes. So speaking of being stuck, that was my history for a long time. So growing up, it wasn't the intention of my family, but I grew up with lots of family patterns where we had several deaths early on, but it was, you need to pick out something to remember this person by, right? Well, you can't get rid of that because your aunt gifted it to you. And if you get rid of it, what's that saying? So there was all these subliminal and, very apparent things I was being taught about how our things relate to those around us, and especially to those who have passed away. And so I always struggled with letting go of items because there was so much importance put on them, right? And so I've always loved spaces. I've always loved space planning. I went to school for interior design. And, for me, it was however I can put these items in a space, it was like Tetris, right? So the more I can pack in, the better it's organized it is, and the more fun it was for me. But, the average home has about 300,000 items in it.
Oh, my goodness.
Of which we're using about 60,000 of those, 20%.
Wow.
On a regular basis. And that was totally me. I have stuff buried at the back of closets. And, I always told myself, I'm not going to pay for a storage unit, then I don't need it. But I would look around my home and I would say, oh, my guest closet's a storage unit. My garage is a storage unit. Sometimes my guest room is a storage unit. And so I really started being reflective on my space. And what triggered it is my brother was actually reorganizing his home. He was having a roommate move back in. And this is a little Easter egg for those of you who have read the book or are going to. So the roommate is actually my sister-in-law. But at the time, so my brother and sister-in-law had gotten divorced, but they're back together now. And so she was moving back in, but it was like, what's happening with this? So for the book, she's just roommate. But Rachel, love you. That's who that is. So a little Easter egg, fun tidbit. But so I was at my brother's home and looking around his house, and he was having a really hard time getting rid of just utilitarian things like lint from his dryer. 'Cause he's like, I can use that. I can use it as a fire starter, right?
What?
all this wood. Well, I might build something someday, right? And stuff where I'm like, that can go. That's easy. I have no emotional attachment to it. And so I was being a little judgy, as you are with siblings. But, I was kind of like, why can't you throw this away? This doesn't make any sense. And I get back to my own home and I'm like, oh, I have the same problem. It's just different items, right? But we have both been taught this pattern through our childhoods. So it really started with me reaching out to Courtney, and I was like, hey, friend, I was like, why do we do these things? Why do I have such a problem letting go? Why is it so hard? And so I started journaling about it, reflecting on it, and really trying to understand my personal relationship with my belongings. And as we talked and collaborated, it was, other people might need this. Like, maybe we should put this in a book and publish it. And so that's kind of how the whole reframe and reclaim journey started. And I know Courtney earlier touched on the reflect and the evaluate steps. We're going to dive deeper into the others today. But it's been a labor of love, and we're just here to share information and hope it helps someone.
Yeah. So helpful.
So definitely our family and things that happen when we're young, you're saying that impacts how we have a relationship with our things.
For me especially, yeah. And I had, again, a lot of death losses. My father passed away when I was 15. And so when I was younger, when grandparents passed, it was, oh, we need to hold on to this. Yeah. So then when my dad died, it was like, oh, I have to hold on to everything, right? Because I'm not going to be able to create new memories. So that was a really hard one to try and work through.
So what do you say to people who are like, well, of course you should hang on to everything from your dad? Like, where's the balance? What's the better way to approach those things from maybe loved ones who have passed?
Yes. So I always have to remind myself their intention is not to, put negativity on me or try to do something to me personally that's going to affect my life. But I have to be really honest with me and say, well, is this good for me? Is it good for me to take this item? Maybe the item they're trying to say you need to keep has a negative connotation for me. Maybe it triggers a bad memory.
Wow.
And so being able to say, I don't need this item to keep the memory. But you know what? If you want it, you can have it. If you know someone that might want it, they can have it. But it's not for me. So that's been really helpful.
Great.
That's good. So just to review from our earlier episode, we talked about the R and the E. Do you want to review those for us before we get in?
So R is reflect. So really thinking about the space and what it could be, not necessarily what it is right now. And when you think about it, you definitely want to do it from your current life chapter, not who you used to be, not who you think you're going to be, but how you use the space right now. And then you're going to evaluate those items and evaluate, what items need to be in the space and what items do I value? If I have a sentimental item in the garage that's 120 degrees and it's in a cardboard box, is the integrity going to be kept? If I'm keeping some clothes in my closet for my aspirational, post-baby wear, once I get to that aspirational goal, will the elastic still be good? Will it be in style? Or is it better to let it go now so someone else can utilize it now? And so really being honest with yourself. Again, there's no right or wrong, but evaluating what items are important to you. And then clean, which is Courtney's favorite step. It's not necessarily my favorite, but for me, it was a very important step.
So cleaning out the entire space.
Yes.
Okay.
And what was important for me as a recovering maximalist was to really sit in the negative space and sit in the empty, because I always wanted to fill it up, right? I wanted to fill, if there was a space to organize it, I wanted to put something there. And to sit in that and listen to my body and say, how do I feel in a negative? Do I feel better? Does it feel uncomfortable or worse? And so by sitting in that, I was able to personally remove some items because I knew I felt better when it was just a little bit emptier.
I love that.
So, more is not always better.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So those are the reflect, evaluate, and clean. And then next we have the layout.
Okay.
Fun
Let's hear about that.
So L is layout. And this can be something as simple as getting a piece of paper, sketching out a floor plan, or getting Post-it notes if you're redoing a pantry, and labeling what goes on which shelf, and just laying out a really generic system of how the space will function for you. So as you're doing the layout, you go in with an initial thought of this is what I want it to be, or this is how I think it should be. But then when you start thinking about it, like let's say a pantry. So if I'm in my pantry, I know I want snacks to be at eye level, the things I'm using frequently. Baking items, they could go high or low. If I have kids, maybe their snacks are going low, but not all the items that I want at eye level may necessarily fit in the space, right? And so I have to choose, am I going to get a second bin that maybe sits behind, or am I going to stack stuff deeper, which I might have a problem later trying to get to the things in the back. So will I forget about them? Will they expire before I eat them? Or do I need to move those to another shelf that may not be as convenient, but it still works with the system? So really laying out something that you think will work for you. And that's really it for the layout step.
Yeah.
So.
And it doesn't have to be perfect at the beginning, I would guess, because I can see perfectionists stopping and saying, wait,
Yes.
but I don't have a perfect layout.
Mm-hmm.
They just need something to start with,
Yes.
it sounds like, and then you can always change things around once you actually put items in there. This is just to have a general plan.
Yes.
The Post-it notes can move.
Post-it notes can move, yes. Sketches can be erased, redrawn, furniture can be moved, yes.
Okay, great.
So that's the L, layout, and then comes the A, assemble. So now we start actually putting the things back in the space. And so like I said before, if you lay out the Post-its, let's say the pantry, and I want, condiments here. I've got my ketchups and my mustards and all the extra bulk stuff. Well, you know what? I really need more space for snacks. I mean, I'm just going to snacks a lot because
I love snacks.
Let's go snacks.
That bag over there is full of snacks.
Right. And so, for my everyday use, I really need these other items more front and center, ready to grab. So I have to make the choice, okay, do I buy less of these other items I rarely use or in my backstock area? Do I take them to another section of the home or another space where I can store bulk items if I want to pull from there? And then just decide how it functions for you. So again, there's no right or wrong. You just have to make choices that work for your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's going to actually work for our everyday use?
Yes.
What makes sense for us?
Yes. And you know what? Sometimes we go in with the best layouts and the best intentions, and you put it in the space, and you're like, ooh, this is not right, or this doesn't quite fit in the space. And so that leads into our I, inspect.
Okay.
So this is really taking a step back, looking at the space and saying, how does this feel? And go back to the reflect. What was my original intention for the space? How did I want it to feel? And does it now feel that way? Or is there still too much stuff? Or do I need a different colored pillow here? Or do I need a narrower bin so I can fit, different types of items into a smaller space? So really taking that time, again, to think of your current life chapter. What do you need for now? And does the space that you planned out and assembled meet those needs? So I think, in our culture, there's a lot of, set it and forget it. Or all I have to do is buy the bins, put it in and set it, and then it's done. Yeah. Right? And that'd be so nice if that's how
that
it
would
was,
be so nice.
Right? It'd be amazing. But life just doesn't work like that.
No,
our life chapters change.
Children and partners mess it all up.
No,
it's not just them. It's me too.
But it's that everyday kind of chaos. And what's that expected chaos and expected everyday usefulness of the space compared to what's clutter, and what are the items that aren't serving the space? Because if it's being used, then it's being utilized. And yeah.
So the goal in a way is just to make it easier to use.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because I'm very form follows function. And so if it's not working in the space, it's just going to cause more stress later. Again, we were talking about the chaos and not having the clarity and the overwhelm and adding to the stress. And so I think we are all stressed out enough as it is. So anything we can do to minimize that, especially in our home environments, is always beneficial.
Yeah.
Our home should be our safe haven.
Yes.
It should feel peaceful and a place we want to decompress and unplug and, escape the worries of the world. Come home to that, right? I mean, that's what coming home is. So when it's stressful and chaotic and cluttered, there's there's no peace there.
No.
And I'll say if you're in the middle of the process, definitely starting in one space where you can have that calm, where you can have that clarity, where you can escape. That's really, really important. So don't try and tackle everything all at once. Be intentional about a space that will make you feel better. So it might be a bedroom.
Yeah.
It might be a nightstand. Or it might be a pantry because you use it every day, multiple times a day. So
those are really good ideas.
Do you typically have a space you recommend people start with if they're looking at their whole house going, where do I even begin?
It really is personal to what people struggle with, but I find a pantry's a really good place to start because, again, you use it every day. We all find expired food in the back that we had good intentions of eating, but things get lost. So to me, that's a really
easy to clean that out. It's
easy
expired.
space.
Let's toss it. Okay.
It's also so in the next step we'll talk about maintain, but it's a really easy space to communicate with people. This is the system. This is how it needs to function. This is where these types of foods go, because there's not a lot of emotional tie to it. Where toys, it's like, but I want this, toy with me in my bedroom, or I'd want this here because it's my item. Where these are all shared. So I think it's a lot easier to have those initial maintain conversations.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So maybe start with something that's not so emotionally charged.
Yes.
Great.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about the maintain.
Yes.
This is where you got me, man.
Yeah. I know, because that's the thing. We can take a picture. It looks great. It's all organized, but how do we keep it that
Right.
way?
And when
Yes.
you come and
And
you're
what's
there, and
the-
you're in our home and you're doing the layout and you're helping us figure out the bins and the labels and all of that. Like I paid for people to come into my home a few years ago, and now I'm like, oh, what happened? It's not good anymore, right? So the maintain,
It is the longest step, and it is the hardest because it takes more people. Like, you can set up a system, but if it's not communicated what that system is, it will quickly fall apart and change. I think it's also goes back to that we want to just set it and forget it and be done. But then our life changes. Maybe we're working out more, we're training for something, so we need more protein. Or maybe we're in perimenopause and we need more protein, right? And so maybe we need more of those kinds of supplements, and we need to make space for that, right? Or maybe our kids are growing up and their toys aren't quite so big and they're going to smaller toys. So maybe they don't need as big of a playroom space. And so always knowing that change is going to happen, and that's okay. It's just a part of our homes. It's a part of our lives, just like the seasons of the year change. And so as you're thinking of maintaining, think of simple systems that are easy to implement and easy to communicate. So a perfect example, it is not the most aesthetically pleasing, but we're testing it out in our home, but Post-it notes, right, on our fridge. For so many nights, it's like, well, what do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat? And what's in the fridge? And just having a simple list. This could be a Post-it note on the fridge. It could be a note somewhere. It could be a dry erase board. But just saying, this is what's here. So people aren't coming to ask you, Mom, what's for dinner? What are we doing? Well, it's just right there. If you want to make something, here's what's available. And if my husband gets home and wants to make something and I'm out, he knows what's there.
I love that.
And so it's a really easy, quick solution. It's not rocket science. It's very simple to implement, and things like that. And I think people, again, want this grand, like, this system is this big grandiose thing and it has to be this certain way. And it can be as simple as a Post-it note, or our dirty dishes go here, or make sure your clothes are in the hamper here. It doesn't have to be quite so big and overwhelming.
Yeah.
We get stuck in that perfectionism,
Oh, girl, don't you know it? Yes, that absolutely is a struggle always. Okay, I like that. So the maintain, part of that could be circle back to the beginning and reflect on maybe things have changed.
Yes.
Right. Maybe, like you said, the kids are older, their toys look different, their activities are different. So maybe we need a space for, like, the baseball gear and where to dump the backpacks and where to put, and being okay with that. I know I struggle. I kind of get locked in, like, well, no, this is supposed to be the way.
Right.
But if the way isn't working, then we need a new way.
And I think a really great example is, like, summertime, just switching seasons, right? You switch sports, you switch your gear, you switch your clothes. And so just simple things like that.
Just recognizing this is a new season.
Yes.
How do we live in this season? How do we keep
Yeah.
our space organized in this season? It's not
Yes.
forever.
We're going to have the pool bag out more with the goggles and the
Yes.
sunscreen. So, right now that's shoved in a closet and I can't get to it because the vacuum cleaner's in the way and winter coats are in the way and all my junk.
All the things. Yeah.
So I think that's good. Being flexible is what I'm hearing.
And it's hard. It's hard because
So what can help in that? What else can help us in that maintaining phase?
Yeah, so going back to the reflect, looking at who else is in the space, who else uses it, and also what do they need and want. So a perfect example of this is in my home. My husband is much more minimalistic, and so he wants every single flat surface cleared so he can find things easily. Whereas I have a higher stress tolerance for items in the home. And I'm like, but it feels empty. It needs some flowers and a picture, But we had to come to a compromise and say, okay, I can decorate walls. Like I can put up banners for seasonal things. I have this one flat space by the coffee bar that I can decorate, but then keeping everything else more as an everyday palette. Because I want to put holidays everywhere all over the house seasonally. It's more festive.
Yeah.
But, we've had to come to that compromise. So another part with the maintain that people struggle with is they put into place a system that's just too hard to maintain. So going back to my earlier example of like, if I have this cabinet under my sink, I'm going to stuff it full of bins and something might be in the way back, but it all fits. But then whenever I go to my everyday use of the item, am I going to go dig in the back to try and find it? No. Will I remember where it is?
Nope.
No.
So then you just buy more of it.
So then you buy more, and then you end up with more. And you're like, where do I put this? Well, I just shove it in the back,
Right.
And so it creates this cycle of a system that you think is work and is well-intentioned, but it just falls apart for your everyday use. So again, with the flexibility, knowing this isn't how my life is, and that's okay.
Yeah.
This is how I really use the space and how many items can really fit into that space and still make it functional for everyday use.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I feel like you've been in my house. That is what my cabinets look like under my
I think
sink.
yes, the cabinets like are difficult in the bathroom, like knowing like where do you keep all the products and things. I just started a new thing for myself where I just started like a box for all my nighttime stuff and then one for my morning stuff.
That's
so
nice.
It's like I'm keeping it under the cabinet all together. So it's just like at night, just pull that out. Then all the things for nighttime are together. Then put it back away. I don't have to look at it all day, and then in the morning, same thing, and then put it away. But also it helps me remember, did I do X, Y, Z? Like, did I do all these things? And then it doesn't seem so overwhelming as looking in the cabinet and just pulling out random
individual
stuff.
things.
Yeah. And I have like my makeup I use every day together.
Yeah.
And then like the random things separately. Like it helps me to just have this everyday use, like you're describing, easy access right there.
And then that also helps you as you keep going and evaluating your items and looking at the spaces, you're able to really see, did I use this item? I looked at this 6 months ago, I put it under my sink and I said, I'm going to use this. I promise I'm going to use it. And then it's 6 months later and it's still there.
I'm not using it.
Right? So then I can be really honest with myself and say, I'm not going to use it.
I
Just
have all
let
these
it
little
go.
samples.
Yes.
Do y'all have those?
Yes.
It's like all these samples. Like I'm definitely going to use that. I'm going to save, and I'm saving it. Right? Like we talked about that. Like I'm just saying, what am I saving it for?
Right.
And then I don't even know what I have. I have so much in there now. I'm like I don't even know what's in there
Yes.
anymore. So
That was one thing I cleaned out, and I found this really great like women's shelter, and they loved it. I took them all these, and I had lots of extra like bags,
zipper
like,
pouches,
yes,
little
that you
cosmetic
just get that
bags.
are free when you buy whatever.
Yeah.
And I just took all that, and I thought, and they were so excited because it's like all these little samples and bags. For me, it's really helpful, like we talked about earlier, to have someone that I know that I'm going to give this to that can use it instead of it just sitting unused. I mentioned the camping gear last time, or the samples. Just recognizing somebody could be using this right now versus it just sitting in the dark and probably expiring under my cabinet.
And you don't want to throw it away. You don't
Right.
wanna, waste it. Someone could use it. It's just not me.
And they might be excited to have it.
Yeah.
And we found that a lot in our case studies. Like that was one of the biggest drivers. If someone knew that someone could use it now or someone could benefit from it, they were much more willing to let it go than hold on to it.
Yeah.
You share some great stories in the book. So we do encourage to find Reframe and Reclaim. That's on Audible. Can order it on Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah. What is your favorite kind of case story from the book that you'd like to share?
Oh, I think for me, it's just like the opening. It's not necessarily a case study, but it was looking at how my mindset changed overall. So it starts the book out. Courtney and I love a good road trip. And it was using this metaphor of life in a car, and you're driving through life. And you can fill your car up with lots of different things. But you know what? You can't see out the window as well if it's packed full of stuff. And so if you take some of the stuff out, you can see more, you can enjoy things more, and it's just less overwhelming. So for me, that was like the really big, like, feel good moment for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful
It's crowding our view of our life.
Yes.
It's we're so stressed and overwhelmed, we're not able to actually enjoy being on this journey.
It's like, look out the window, and it's like, hold on, let me get through all the boxes.
Right. Yeah. And other people, same. They can't see us, right? They can't
Yes.
relate to us. So, yeah,
And
that's
lots
really
of people
good.
suffer with, not wanting to have people come into their homes.
Yes.
They feel shame and guilt. Most people don't show people their entire homes, right? Because they feel this sense of, it's not good enough. It's not perfect enough to show them. So,
And removing that allows us to have that connection with
yes,
people.
Yes.
I love that. That's so good. Any other last parting thoughts or words or takeaways you want people to have?
I just want people to know, like, it's okay to have stuff. We're all there. We're in a very consumeristic society. We have marketing on our phones constantly. I think one of the biggest things you can do to help kind of stop that cycle is stop bringing so many things into your home. Before you make a purchase, do I have this already? Is it hidden in the back of a cabinet? And then also just being gentle with yourself, being kind, especially if it's something sentimental. Give yourself the time and space, and give yourself, time. Give yourself goals and time limits. So if it's your first time going through a box, and there's a lot of sentimental items in there, say, well, I'm going to come back to this in 6 months, or I'm going to come back to it in a year, and see if I feel different. And maybe you have, and maybe you haven't. But then what's in your home, and you can make more informed decisions. So when you make those decisions, you don't feel like, well, I'm going to regret this. I might need this one day. And that's something we asked our clients is, well, do you regret anything you've given away or let go of? And they're like, no, I feel so much better. And had I known this is how I would feel, I would have done this much sooner. So
How else do clients feel after they complete the reclaim process?
the biggest thing is lighter, and you can physically see it. Like, we have clients that come in, they're like, I don't want to do this. This is really uncomfortable, and you're in my space. And it's a very vulnerable position to be in.
Yes.
And by the end, it's like you just physically see their shoulders drop. They're more open. They feel better. And then the one thing I love about this so much is I'm not a patient person. So the instant gratification of like seeing a room transform within a couple hours to half a day is amazing. And then the client sees that, and it does snowball, and then they're immediately like, what can I do next? I want to do more. Let's keep it going. And so that's one of my favorite parts.
It catches on,
Yeah.
and they're ready to run with it. Yeah. I love a good before and after.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. Love it.
Yeah.
This has been so great. Thank you so much, Jen Harris,
Yeah. Thanks for
Reframe
having
and
us.
Reclaim, for sharing your expertise. We hope you will share this with a friend right now. I know you've thought of somebody who absolutely needs to hear this. Send this episode to them right away. Be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our future episodes. Thanks for joining us, A Journey to Whole Woman Health.
Thank you for joining us on A Journey to Whole Woman Health. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Remember, your questions matter, your health matters, and wholeness is a journey. Until next time.
Now for the legal language. The information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical or mental health advice. Listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient or therapist-client relationship. Always consult your own qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical concerns.